Aileen Wuornos, born on February 29, 1956, in Rochester, Michigan, is often cited as one of America's most infamous female serial killers. Her early life was marked by severe trauma and instability. Her father, Leo Dale Pittman, was a convicted child molester who hanged himself in prison before she was born, while her mother, Diane Wuornos, abandoned Aileen and her older brother, Keith, when Aileen was just 4 years old. The two children were left in the care of their grandparents, Lori and Britta Wuornos. Aileen's childhood was deeply troubled. Her grandfather was reportedly an abusive alcoholic, and there were claims that he sexually assaulted her. At the age of 11, Aileen began engaging in sexual activities in exchange for cigarettes, drugs, and food. By 14, she became pregnant, allegedly after being raped by a friend of her grandfather. The child was put up for adoption, and shortly after, Aileen was thrown out of her grandparents' home, forcing her to live in the woods near her childhood home in Troy, Michigan. By her late teens, Aileen had turned to sex work as a means of survival. She drifted across the country, getting into trouble with the law for various offenses, including DUI, disorderly conduct, and theft. Her life took a darker turn when she settled in Florida in the late 1980s. Between 1989 and 1990, Wuornos embarked on a killing spree that claimed the lives of 7 men. Richard Mallory, David Spears, Charles Carskadden, Peter Seams, Troy Burress, Charles Humphreys, and Walter Gino Antonio. Wuornos claimed that each of these men had either raped or attempted to rape her while she was working as a prostitute, and that the murders were committed in self-defense. However, the evidence in many of the cases suggested that the killings were premeditated acts of robbery and murder. Richard Mallory, her first known victim, was a convicted rapist, which lent some credence to her claims of self-defense. However, the brutality of the murders and the fact that the men's personal belongings were often found in pawn shops or in Wuornos' possession cast doubt on her story. Wuornos shot her victims at point-blank range with a .22 caliber pistol. Her criminal activities eventually led to her downfall. On January 9, 1991, Wuornos was arrested at a bar in Volusia County, Florida, after police tracked down her and her girlfriend, Tyria Moore, using evidence found in a crashed vehicle belonging to one of the victims, Peter Seams. Moore cooperated with the police and was instrumental in getting Wuornos to confess to the murders during a series of taped phone conversations. In the ensuing trial, Wuornos' defense argued that she had been a victim of prolonged abuse, and that the killings were acts of self-defense. However, the prosecution painted her as a cold-blooded killer who targeted men for their money and cars. On January 27, 1992, Wuornos was found guilty of the first-degree murder of Richard Mallory. She was sentenced to death, and over the next few months, she received additional death sentences for the other murders. Aileen Wuornos spent a decade on death row, during which time her mental health deteriorated. She was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder, and she exhibited increasingly erratic behavior, including claims that she was being controlled by sonic pressure and that her food was being tampered with. Despite appeals and a public debate over her mental competency, Wuornos waived her right to further appeals in 2001, insisting that she wanted to die. She was executed by lethal injection on October 9, 2002, at Florida State Prison. Her last words were, "I'd just like to say I'm sailing with the Rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus, June 6th, like the movie Big Mother Ship and all. I'll be back." Wuornos' life has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and films, most notably the 2003 movie Monster, in which Charlize Theron's portrayal of Wuornos earned her an Academy Award. Her case continues to provoke discussions about the criminal justice system, the treatment of women who kill, and the impact of childhood trauma on adult behavior.